that. So why don't we go ahead and start off talking about what you, Danielle, have done,
Mhm.
where the idea of you wanting to become a digital marketer and how that has pretty much progressed over the years.
Okay. You want like the long version or the short version?
Well, that's the best part. Is that's the best part about something like an interview like this. It's just I want to know
Mhm.
your side, because everybody has a story, and I'm sure you probably thought to yourself at one point, maybe it might work out, it may not, and just in our last conversation, you're like it was working, but what's the
Mhm.
next step? So go for it.
Okay. So I was kind of a nerd in high school, and I was really good at like chemistry, so I thought, sure, like let's continue that on to college. And so I started taking some really hard chemistry courses in
Uh huh.
college, and I realized, this is not fun. And then I realized I don't know what I'm gonna do with this.
I
So
completely
I was like,
understand.
yeah, it was so one day I was um well, sorry, rewind. Through college I waited tables, bartended, did that thing. At this point I was probably 3 years deep into it, and I realized that I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy talking to people, and I enjoyed meeting new people every day. And I thought, being in a science lab
Hmm.
all day is not me. It's just not going to make me happy.
Yeah.
So this one day I was studying, and I literally like shut all my books and dropped all my classes and just quit school for that semester that day.
Hmm.
I kind of just thought I need to figure this out because this is not what I want to do. And luckily, a buddy of mine was opening a bar. I'd worked with him in the past, so he trusted me to kind of train his staff, get the ball rolling. So I did that, and I realized what really was happening is I was helping him market his bar.
Yeah.
And I realized that I really enjoyed it. So I thought, you know what, this is what I need to do. Let me go back to school for this.
Hmm.
So next semester rolls around. I start taking business courses, marketing courses, and I start actually enjoying school. And school's fun, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with about the things that I'm learning. So that's kind of where I got bit, and I just continued to dive into anything that I could. He started opening up a lot of bars. I started meeting other people that were opening restaurants. At this point, I had 6 years of restaurant industry under my belt. So yeah, I realized, this is what's for me, and I wanted to, see what can I do outside of restaurant world. How
Hmm.
far can I take this? Um, so fast forward 10 years later, actually finished my degree. But at that whole time period, I was bartending and doing that fun stuff. So that was still my world. Um, so towards that last year, a lot of the managers that I worked with were letting me just run their social media pages, and in the same sense, kind of running their marketing as well.
Yeah.
Um, so my last year in college, the owners that I worked for kind of just gave me the ball and said, just try whatever you want. If it works, great. If not, who cares?
Hmm.
So I got to do a lot of events, and they turned out well. So then I thought, do I want to do event marketing? Is that what makes me happy, or does social media make me happy? Um, so it turns out I don't like event marketing. And God bless the people that do, because it is a headache and a half.
Logistically,
Um,
it can be a headache. Yeah.
Yes, and it doesn't really matter, who you know, because I had a ton of friends, I had a ton of help, and it still, keeps you up at night. It's a tough job for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I decided, okay, I really like this digital marketing thing. I really want to do this. Then shortly after, I got an internship with D.R. Horton, corporate office. If you don't know who D.R. Horton is, they're America's builders, so they're the largest builder of homes in America, like by
Construction,
far.
right? Some similar like
It's
that.
like starter homes all the way to like $5
Apartment.
homes.
Okay.
And they recently actually just acquired some apartments, and so they're doing that as well.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I didn't know any of this before I started this
Yeah.
job, and I was in their marketing department, but specifically I got thrown into social media,
Hmm.
and I at young me, I was just happy to be there. Didn't really know what I was doing, and they taught me the correct way to do social media and how to do it on a business to that scale.
Mhm.
And I got to see how you engage with people, how you go out and find people that you don't know and never talk to, and just start talking about DR Horton or whatever your business is. Special like employees, like the exact employee that they're wanting for this job. I realized the keywords that the computer uses before it even sees a human's eye.
Mhm.
So I make sure that I put those keywords in people's resume, so yeah, I guess I take it pretty serious. And honestly, though, I see resumes when I'm helping people out like that. It's really like friend to friend. I don't treat it like a business. I generally want to help people get a job.
No, I completely understand. And especially like I've always said for stuff like in corporate America, at working as a recruiter, when when you send off a resume, there like you say, there's certain keywords
Mm-hmm.
that it like I've always told people, especially when I train them, because not only do I want to help people to like get them the job, but I want them to know in the future what they're looking for is you have to really pay attention to the job application. And when you pay attention to that job application, look at keywords that they're saying, because those keywords are what you have to pretty much transition into your resume. Now, I've always told people, have a master resume of everything you've done, whether you've been a cashier, um, your warehouse stock. There's always one trait that you can transition from that master resume
Mm-hmm.
into said job. And really, it's like 3 to 5 bullets per. If you have, I think if actually no, if you have like 5 years of experience and or more and plus a degree, you are allowed like 2 pages of real estate, right? Try to cram that all in there. But if you have 5 or less and you only have like 2 or 3 jobs, but then you had
Yeah.
like a whole bunch in high school or anything like that, little things like that will help you from going. And I always said this, like from a cashier at Dairy Queen to a personal banker at a small bank, and then work your way up to a more corporate bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. It's in, I knew my life and the jobs that I held, but, making all these resumes, I'm seeing other people's career and seeing, how they started at Sonic, and now they're a senior analysis at Bank of America,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's very cool that I've got to see, a wide range of people's, work path and how they've navigated through, and it's been really nice. It's been really cool to see that, and then knowing that person on a personal level, and knowing, that they have kids or they've moved twice, something like that. It's really cool that I know this person in real life, and I can put it on paper, and try to convey that to the employer. It's a cool experience.
And I think that the best experience is if you were to tell yourself, and I think really is, if with everything that you know now, what would you tell yourself back when you were in when you just went into college? What's that one thing that you would have told yourself? Because I'm pretty sure like you're thinking chemistry, chemistry, chemistry.
Right.
Would your 18, 19-year-old self believe that you would be, for a part-time an entrepreneur, or at least like working on a side hustle in something in a completely different realm?
Right. You know, I can't speak to chemistry, Danielle, because my mind was in a very, very different place. But once I kind of knew I wanted to do the, College of Business, and kind of take that route, if I could go back and talk to that Danielle, and I also go back to community colleges as well as UNT and speak to students all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I always tell them is that, and I always say, I wish somebody would have told me this, but early on, um, especially when it comes to marketing, I imagine all jobs, especially business world,
Mm-hmm.
definitely marketing, it's constantly, constantly changing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much you're paying this university, they're not going to teach you the current things that are going on. And I realized early on that I was applying for these jobs, and they wanted me to have, you know, Adobe experience and all this Google experience, and Google Analytics and da da da. And like, I didn't learn this in college,
Mm-hmm.
nor did anybody tell me, hey, it'd be probably a good thing if you just went and like did a little crash course on this. Soon after I finished school, I realized, man, I need to like get on this. And so I was self-teaching myself Google Analytics and self-teaching myself, Google keywords, and I did pretty good for learning it on my own. I got through it. When I started building websites, I was doing the best that I could when it came to keyword research. Um, but now that I did land a job, I'm learning, the correct way to do all those things, and I'm seeing how, Google really plays into everything, social media, and just literally everything. If
Yeah.
you want to do it correctly, and you want to be at least top 5 ranked on Google, like that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't learn any of that in college, and I don't, not saying my school was bad. I loved my school. I loved what I learned, but it wasn't preparing me for the current market, going into the workforce.
There,
So I always tell
yeah.
my students, the students that I speak at, I always tell them, hey, if you want to do social media, if you want to do, more marketing analysis, market research, whatever it is, go find that job on Indeed, for
Hmm.
example, and look at what qualifications that you need to have that job. And there's going to be about 4 bullet points on there that you won't even know what it is.
Hmm.
And because that's what happened to me. So then, write it down and go research it. If it's a free course, take it immediately. If it's not, and you're hurting for cash, I know how it is to be a college student. Just look up a YouTube tutorial, learn the basics, and then the best step after that is find you somebody that's in dire need of updating their website or something like that. You have a friend, you have a hairstylist, you
Yeah.
have somebody in your life that could probably be marketing themselves better.
Hmm.
And so just ask them, hey, is it okay if I do a website makeover for you? I'm a student, I'm learning, no charge, because I might mess it up or I don't know what I'm doing. So
Hmm.
you don't charge them, but you kind of do it for the practice, and you'll realize what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then literally just over time, it'll become second nature to you, and you'll thank yourself that you took the time to learn it with a friend before your boss is throwing it at you and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I always tell, those are always like my word of advice is don't think that you're gonna finish school and the learning stops. It's actually completely
It's
backwards.
it's it's a perpetual motion, and I really think that that is what I wish I could tell myself back then, because I have always hated school, or I hated the idea that, um, I changed my major 4 times, and a lot of people think change is bad. I'm like, well, change is good if you know what you want to do, um,
Yeah.
if you know exactly what head you have on your shoulders. But I've always said this, just like how you say, you refer to it as students because sometimes you actually teach them something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the idea is with school particularly, um, it's one of those things where although they're not keeping up to the current trend, I've always said school is just a foundation of learning the idea, the concept, the aspect, whatever you want to call it, maybe even the theory. But
Mm-hmm.
also, how do you apply that really is dependent on you, the entrepreneur, or you, the person, and then being able to think outside the box of wait, if our target market is really our audience, I'm just kind of going off my head here, how do I incentivize them through said theory? And then you apply that through social media, and there you have a business. You're the solution to someone's problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's one of the best professors I had said that if you really want to be a good marketer, you're essentially just a problem solver. That's your job, and
Yeah,
it kind of like made sense at that point. Yeah. So
and I think, I really think, and I've always loved the idea of it. I actually, marketing was actually one of the classes I almost failed, believe it or not. But it was one of those where I took too many applicable methods of theory, um, and I think it was just very funny because it's like, how you say you did things for free or you just wanted to learn it for practice, which is true.
mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to do things for free to kind of build your base, but you get
Right.
good at it enough, and it's like, well, I'm good at it enough. Or sometimes you even question yourselves, when am I good at enough? I've always said this: if someone's asking you for help, you're good enough to charge. And although sometimes best practice, that's very critical. Google Words, Google AdWords, Google Tag Manager, doing a little bit of programming, especially Adobe InDesign was a learning curve for me as much as Photoshop. I've always said this, like if you can learn from like Canva graphic design and then step your way to Adobe Photoshop, you're on the right path. YouTube, great big help. Learning, just the fundamentals. Most schools actually have free resources of fundamentals of Adobe Photoshop, and then from there it's just repetition. Um, in my field, or just in my perspective, I had to learn how to do my own film editing, and I would have to do a YouTube, or I would do a manual, or I would take a course or something like that. Same thing for Canva, and like learning how to create an ebook, or learning how to use Microsoft for my benefit to create an ebook, and transitioning things from certain formats. And it's just, I've always said, how when you started a class, it could have been, what was the one class that you're like, this one is gonna be like an ass kicker. Like you already knew that this one was gonna be like, oh, God, I can't wait for the semester to be over. In business.
Honestly, funny story. It was a web design class. I absolutely hated it. But what the reason that I didn't like it is because the professor was really good at what he did. He was
Mm-hmm.
really good. So it was almost like, he was so good. It was kind of hard to coach us and teach us through it. And for somebody that I had no idea, coding, I had not even the basics. I had no idea. So it wasn't fun for me. I powered through it. I got through it, and it sucked, but I
Mm-hmm.
got through it. And it was funny how 6 months later I was building and designing websites, because I sat down and taught myself a different way and learned it. And um, designing websites, it's good to know the basics of HTML. I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
that I know it. I'm glad that course kind of opened those doors for me. But deep down, I liked designing the website. I like making the layout and making it make sense and what's going to stand out. That's really where I get, when I design websites, that's what I enjoy. But you gotta know basic coding for sending out emails. If you want to do email marketing, you have to know basic coding for that. So I wish that I kind of was paid more attention in that class, but it was tough, and I did not like it.
And it's so funny how that works. That's just like me in marketing, and like you say, and I think this is where, in a sense, college doesn't necessarily, in some ways it does fail certain people, especially people like us who are entrepreneurs. It's like we get what you're saying, but how do you break it down into applicable terms? Because it's like you're so good at what you do, awesome, but you can't teach. And where I built my business was pretty much how to learn. And there's like me, evidently I'm a dumb learner, but the thing is, I find like if I don't understand it by reading it, I'll find a video. If I don't understand it by video, I'll
Yeah.
understand it by like a PowerPoint, or maybe someone actually showing me, or me. I just have to do it, like with video, uh, editing, with my own video editing. I actually had to learn how to do it because I could watch said video, but it was not clicking. And that was the one thing where I realized that not one person learns the same. And
Mhm.
it's kind of in college, they teach you, but only how said person knew how to learn it, not how to accommodate for. And it may have been a big class, 40, 50, 60 people. How do you help it with everybody else? And for me, lectures were always the worst. I could never learn because I had to visually see it, or I had to visually
Mhm.
do it, unless I did lab and it made sense. Going back to anatomy, that was one of those things where I always tell people, it's once you know what you want to do, it's just learning on your own. Because really, for some classes, like you said, for your web design class, you most likely had to learn on your own because you did not get enough in the classroom. And it's just being diligent and learning and failing, but getting back up to learn more, or try to get over that hump. For example,
Right.
maybe you typed in that one code and you see it the way it is in the book, and it's not clicking, it's not working, it says
Mhm.
error. And I did little bit of HTML in high school, and I wish I could go back and learn all that stuff, but it's kind of like use it or lose it. And I really think that that's one of the things is just being resilient enough to get back up. Because, like you said, yes, you did take a semester off, but now look at you. And it's like amazing. You enjoy what you do. And that is one where I always tell people, I'm like, it's okay to fail. Not a business is going to fail. A person's going to fail. We make mistakes, but don't make it again. And that's the thing about professional development is on my end is how do I help you get from point A to point B? You're doing something wrong because obviously you wouldn't be asking me, which is obviously you have a problem. We are the solution to fix it. Here we are. How do we do it? And I think that was a really good point on how you explained it, where web design was a big weakness, as now it's becoming your biggest strengths, and that is like me. English was my biggest weakness, and now I'm writing, ebooks and e-guides on pretty much like what I thought
Right.
was my weakest strength, and I think that's the a really tripped out thing that a lot of people don't foresee.
Hmm. Yeah, I never thought that I would be the writer that I am today. Looking back at how, you know, I was barely passing English classes in high school. It's kind of funny to think.
And it's an insane thing, especially for anybody, because like you say, um, when we get out of high school, or let's say we drop out of college, sometimes we're just thrown into a workforce where, and believe me, I understand completely how it was as a bartender or even a waiter, a waitress. I was a food expo at one point. I worked in a factory at one point. I worked on a bus at one point. I did become a grad assistant at one point, and it was just, it's not like I became an office manager and entrepreneur. It was just a series of, and believe it or not, I got fired from the same university that hired me. And I think that's really funny because it's just how you say, you may have heard it, a lot of people say, oh, we need networking, but really it's just what you make of it and how you stand out, because once you send off that piece of paper, how you say, your keywords will play a big portion of,
For sure.
do I get noticed?
Yeah, the keywords really, really matter for sure.
And other than that, I guess just to kind of end things, because it was really interesting. What is the next big? Because I've always said this. It's like big picture here. What is your next big step with everything that you know now to prevail your, or pretty much scale your business on the next level? Um, what is your next step, because you do have your clients here, or you have
Hmm.
this funnel of clients that kind of just have two or three. I mean, do you plan on making a course or maybe a podcast, or maybe YouTube videos or anything like that?
I really do enjoy public speaking. Know a lot of people like hate it; it's their biggest fear.
Yeah.
But when it's something that I, am passionate about and I feel very knowledgeable and I want, others to succeed, I thoroughly enjoy it. So, um, you know, I was doing this kind of freelance thing and it was taking off and I enjoyed it, but I realized I was only getting so far because I was all self taught,
Yeah.
and so I took on this marketing associate position, and I'm very, very lucky that I have an amazing boss, and
And a
she's
good
teaching
mentor.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great mentor. She's teaching me things about Google that I would have never discovered on my own. So I knew that I wasn't looking for an 8 to 5, but I needed one so that I could be coached above and beyond of what I was doing. And so lucky enough, that's exactly what's happening. And so I plan on being here for a while and doing my, freelance stuff on the side still as well. But I want to take all this knowledge that I'm going to gain over these next few years, and I would love to start some type of e-commerce business.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few ideas, but nothing, set in stone. But I definitely want to take all that knowledge and, have a really good e-com business. And I know that there's something out there through my 20 ideas. I know one of them is going to be, a great niche, and it's going to be essentially a problem solver to consumers. And yeah, so I just kind of want to take that and run with it. And I know that right now I'm in the learning stages now. I could do it now if I really wanted to, but I really want to have that strong knowledge
Foundation,
foundation.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I know eventually the week will probably roll around where I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm, more than ready, and so that's kind of where I want to take it in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if that's next year or if it's 5 years from now. I am very passionate about it, so it's kind of, how long can I hold off
Yeah.
and learn? But yeah, that's kind of where I want to take it from here.
I think that's super awesome to hear. And just like in your same shoes, the prior job that I had, or in the prior jobs that I've had, it's, we can only learn so much, and there was
Mm-hmm.
not been one entrepreneur or one business person successfully who has not had a mentor, and I think that's very important, is for
Yeah.
someone to find a mentor and the right mentor, because
Mm-hmm.
there have been occasions where we think that we failed our mentor, but really I think that more times like that our mentor failed us, because that was the reason why they were there in the first place. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to this movie Step Up 2. This guy says, it's very funny. He says, I can coach anybody. And then this girl, obviously, she's off the street. She does breakdancing. And he's pretty much challenged to turn this girl into the street dancer into a ballerina, and it's like that's his challenge. If he says he can do something, you have to own it and do it. And I think that's really great that now that you're on your next path of getting mentored the right
Mm-hmm.
way, and pretty much going from self-taught to being taught, and it's just pretty much just consuming everything in a timely manner and just acting on your next big step.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I truly wish you best luck. I thank you very much for allowing me to interview and get your side and see how everything is. Um, and really quickly, too, I'll make sure to post in this video actually just some link somewhere around here or down here. Your link to your Instagram, your link to your Gmail, stuff like that, and just pretty much see how that goes. But I can't thank you enough, Danielle. I'd love to interview you again, probably on a different topic, because now we just assess where you are. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, if it's anything else like a big next big trend, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for talking with me. This was fun, and I'm happy to speak again about whatever you want.
No problem. Well, I have my email, and if anything, I will definitely see what we can do next time. But I wish you the best luck on your endeavor, and I hope you get to take your side business on to the next level.
Okay, thanks.
All right, see you later, Daniel.